Have you ever felt, trapped by the clock? By this idea that life just moves in one direction, from birth to death, and that's it? Well, get ready, because today we're diving into a really fascinating text that says we can do more than just put up with time. We can actually start bending the rules. The source material kicks off with this line. It's beautiful, but also kind of sad, right? It perfectly captures that feeling we all get, that helplessness as moments just slip away and things change, whether we like it or not. But what if that wasn't the whole story? Okay, so here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, we're going to talk about why we feel so stuck in time. Then we get into the really wild stuff, bending reality, hacking our own bodies, and even using our minds as actual time machines. And we'll end with a pretty bold challenge to that whole live in the now idea.
So let's start with the big problem this whole philosophy is trying to solve. Why does life feel like this relentless, one-way street we're all stuck on?
The text paints this picture of a universe that's just caught in these endless loops. You've got the seasons, empires rising and falling, birth and death. From this point of view, everything is just struggling and eventually fading away inside the box of time and space. It's a heavy way to start, for sure, but it sets the stage perfectly. So, how do you break out of that box? Well, this whole philosophy hangs on one single, really radical idea. Time isn't fixed. And to get our heads around this, let's walk through the thought experiment at the heart of it all.
Okay, so the author says, think about Earth's rotation. If you fly east, you're moving with the planet's spin. You're basically flying towards the sunrise, right? So your day actually feels shorter. But if you travel west, you're going against the spin. You're kind of running away from the sunrise, which could make your day feel way longer than 24 hours.
And this is where it gets absolutely nuts. The text actually calculates that if you could travel west at just the perfect speed, you could theoretically stretch a single year into more than 36,000 days. Now, obviously, this isn't a travel tip. It's a mind-bending exercise to prove one really important point. And here's the big takeaway from all that. If our experience of time is tied to our motion, then time can't be some absolute, constant thing. It must be a variable. And if it's a variable, well, that means we might just be able to mess with it. So, this idea goes from physics straight into our own biology, which leads to the next logical question, right? If you can stretch time in the outside world, could you maybe do the same thing inside your own body to slow down aging? The text brings up the science of telomeres, those little protective caps on our chromosomes, and uses them as a metaphor for a biological clock. So in this model, every single time a cell divides, that little clock ticks, and the telomere gets shorter. The idea here is if you can just slow down the rate of those ticks, you could extend your lifespan. And how do you slow down that clock? According to the source, it all comes down to your state of mind. Negative emotions, anger, fear, all that stuff, are described as accelerants. They literally speed up the aging process. But positive states, like peace and joy, are decelerants. They pump the brakes and slow it all down. And it's not just about what you feel. The philosophy says that routine itself is a trap. Staying in the same place, with the same people, thinking the same thoughts, it creates this kind of biological momentum, just pulling you down the expected path of aging. To break free, the text says you need to actively shake things up. New places, new ideas, new habits. Which brings us to the most powerful and maybe the most abstract tool in this whole system, the human mind. The author basically presents our consciousness as the ultimate time machine. Now, the key concept here is a very specific term from the source, ideation. Don't just think of it as a random thought. It's more like the purest impulse of your consciousness, a non-physical intention. And because it's not physical, the philosophy claims it isn't bound by physical laws. It can travel anywhere in the universe instantly. So get this. While our bodies are stuck here in the physical world, our consciousness, our ideation is totally free. This is the big escape hatch. Your mind can go where your body can't, breaking free from that straight line of time. And here's where it all connects. The life you are living right now, it's seen as the direct result of all your past thoughts and intentions, which means the thoughts and intentions you're putting out right now are actively building the reality you're going to step into tomorrow. And that leads us to the final and maybe the most shocking piece of this whole puzzle, a total rejection of that popular advice we always hear to just live in the present moment. We've all heard it, right? Be here now. It's like the foundation of modern mindfulness. Well, this philosophy doesn't just disagree, it argues for the complete opposite. It says the present is often just this fixed, difficult thing that you have to endure, not celebrate. The future, it says, is where your real power is. So, why push back so hard against the present? The argument goes like this. For a lot of people, right now is just full of pain and stress. And the text asks a pretty compelling question. If our minds experience an imagined reality just as strongly as a real one, why would we choose to sit in a painful present? Instead, focusing your mind on a beautiful, imagined future can give you the hope you need to get through the struggles of today. And this quote just nails it. The past is gone, the present is just happening to you. But the future? According to this text, the future is the only thing you can really grab onto and shape with your mind. But it's not like this power is limitless. The philosophy is smart enough to point out some paradoxes. Like, you couldn't use this to go back in time and stop yourself from being born. The idea is that some pathways through space-time are just off limits, even in this super flexible model of reality. And this is a really critical point. The source gives a very direct warning. This is not some casual self-help trick. These ideas are apparently part of a much bigger, more complicated system, and trying to use them on their own without the full picture could be destabilizing or, they warn, even dangerous. So what we're left with is this really mind-bending way of looking at our own reality. And it all comes down to one last big question for you. If your consciousness really isn't stuck in the here and now, where are you choosing to put it? In the past, the present, or a future that you get to design?